Pokrovsk has become Russia's deadliest battlefield. 1,500 Russian troops killed inside the city. Another 8,000 were wiped out around it as Ukraine's drones hunt anything that moves. Moscow's victory is collapsing in real time. A Russian infiltration team pushes through a ruined apartment block, convinced they've slipped past Ukraine's drones. They scatter into doorways, believing they're safe. Seconds later, a Madyar Birds FPV punches through the darkness, dives between two collapsed stairwells, and detonates. Thermal cameras catch the shockwave. Ukraine has turned southern Pokrovsk into a place where anything that moves is hunted. Analysts cited scenes like this as evidence against encirclement claims in mid-November. To understand this moment, it helps to step back to the sequence of early mid-November, when Moscow's narrative collided with a quietly shifting Ukrainian defense. By October, the Madyar Birds had already demonstrated a lethal baseline in the Pokrovsk sector, with Ukrainian sources reporting roughly 8,000 Russian personnel killed, primarily via drone strikes, though independent verification is limited. This prior performance set the capability baseline that shaped November's decisions on force mix and deployment. On November 1st, Ukraine's main intelligence directorate, HUR, entered the field. United 24 Media reported that Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrskyi confirmed their arrival, saying a complex operation is underway to eliminate and push out Russian forces from the city. Euromaidan Press detailed that HUR's drone operators were preparing their own seek and destroy campaign inside the city itself, laying the groundwork for what followed in the second week of the month. On November 4th, as reported by the BBC, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy made his first frontline visit of this phase, while Zelenskyy publicly dismissed Russian encirclement claims. On November 11th, Zelenskyy returned. That same day, Moscow asserted it had cleared 35 buildings, insisting Pokrovsk was days from falling, as DW reported. Ukraine responded publicly by announcing additional special operations forces, weapons, and equipment for the sector. At the time, DW noted it was unclear which claims would bear out. Subsequent mid-November reporting indicated the additional units were indeed deployed, turning announcements into visible posture. That day, Zelenskyy issued a public statement emphasizing his intent to hold the city. "This is our country, this is our east, and we will certainly do our utmost to keep it Ukrainian." Behind the scenes, he and Syrskyi were shaping a force that would redefine the city's defense. Euromaidan Press later reported that Zelenskyy spent much time inside the headquarters of the Birds of Madyar, an elite drone warfare, electronic intelligence, and deep reconnaissance brigade expanded into a full formation toward the end of 2024. Militarny adds essential context. The same group held the Bakhmut line for 110 days and withdrew only on order, inflicting heavy losses even as the city ultimately fell. At Madyar's makeshift base, Zelenskyy and Syrskyi assembled a composite defensive team: the Madyar Birds, the 25th Airborne, the 7th Rapid Response, and the 1st Azov Corps. According to that guy Noah, Zelenskyy personally met these units, heard their requests, and once logistics were agreed, delivered a stark instruction, as Euromaidan Press summarized it. Both Zelenskyy and Commander-in-Chief Syrskyi issued the same directive: neutralize Russian forces operating in and around Pokrovsk. Every operator understood exactly what that meant, and the timeline to act was measured in hours, not days. On November 11th, Censor.net posted an 87-second video that illustrated the new approach. It shows one Russian soldier walking through woodland near Pokrovsk before climbing into the wreckage of a destroyed vehicle, concealment likely chosen with care. The Madyar Birds sent drone after drone until one struck, hitting the target as the outlet noted. The assumption that lone soldiers were low-value targets collapsed in real time, and with it the tactical comfort of moving as singletons. Zelenskyy's answer was to empower the Madyar Birds within a wider joint concept. The brigade deployed to southern Pokrovsk with an uncompromising order: eliminate every detected Russian soldier, whether alone, in pairs, or hiding under rubble. The focus tightened from attriting massed assaults to hunting infiltrators one by one, using the October baseline as proof of capacity and the November 11th directive as operational trigger. Through mid-November, Ukrainian estimates put Russian fatalities at approximately 100 per day in the Pokrovsk area. What emerged was a systemized form of defense. Airspace dense with reconnaissance and strike drones, some with optical cameras, some with thermal sensors, and some lying dormant until a vibration wakes them. Russia cannot maneuver without being watched. It cannot retreat without being targeted. The very act of movement risks detection. The act of rescue risks annihilation. On November 13th, Zelenskyy stated via telegram, "There is no talk of Russian control over the city of Pokrovsk or the operational encirclement of the Defense Forces of Ukraine group." He added that stabilization depends on coordination between units, coordination that appears to be functioning effectively across the composite force of Madyar, airborne, rapid response, and HUR elements. Evidence emerged immediately after these directives. Reports on November 17th from Australia's ABC News described roughly 300 Russian infiltrators inside the city. These were not the armoured assaults of Bakhmut. They were small teams, slipping through gaps, hiding in ruins, and often moving alone to reduce detectability. Euromaidan Press later explained the logic from Russia's side. Lone soldiers might attract fewer Ukrainian strikes than clustered elements, especially under constant UAV surveillance and electronic threat. The hunts continued day and night. Euromaidan Press later reported, with just one clip showing 39 Russian soldiers, 6 motorcycles, and a quad bike destroyed, infiltrators hunted day and night, and even soldiers hiding under rubble or inside garages found and neutralized. Southern Pokrovsk became a kill zone. As Politico described on November 18th, the static trench warfare of earlier years has been replaced by drone-filled corridors up to 20 kilometers deep. These corridors make advances hard to sustain because wounded infiltrators are difficult to evacuate. Ukrainian drones loiter over likely routes, waiting for any attempt to extract casualties or rotate forces. HUR's role inside the city hinged on fiber optic tethered FPV drones. Unlike conventional RF-linked platforms, these are far less susceptible to jamming due to the cable, which can stretch for miles, providing uninterrupted high-definition video and enabling precise strikes through rubble, basements, and heavily jammed urban sectors. One such drone is lethal. Dozens deployed simultaneously create a level of destruction Russia has rarely encountered inside dense ruins, where electronic warfare saturates the air. Over November, HUR reported the following in and around Pokrovsk. Roughly 1,500 Russian soldiers killed, 18 electronic warfare and air defense assets destroyed, 39 artillery systems, 20 tanks, 62 armored fighting vehicles, and more than 500 other vehicles, including trucks, motorbikes, and cars. Several ammunition and fuel depots were also struck. These results matter because Russia is running out of armor. When a tank appears near Pokrovsk now, it is usually isolated and quickly destroyed before it can play any real role, a change that underscores how scarcity shapes tactics. Zelenskyy returned in mid-November, awarding the Madyar Birds, who are drone pilots, and other elite operators for what they achieved, a public acknowledgement that mirrored the private urgency of the prior week. The threat, however, is real and intensifying. Reuters reported that Russia has committed up to 150,000 soldiers for a final push ahead of winter, hoping to capture the city before freezing temperatures make operations harder. The Kyiv Independent reported sightings of Russian troops north of the city. Medusa noted that Russia still hadn't encircled the city. Ukraine retains Attrition, the main western access point, and holds the primary routes connecting Pokrovsk to Dnipro, keeping both supply and evacuation corridors open despite relentless pressure across the sector. As infiltration tactics fail, Russia has begun using more desperate methods. On November 18th, United 24 Media relayed SBU allegations that Russian troops inside Pokrovsk used civilians as human shields, forcing a man, a woman, and a 13-year-old child to walk ahead of them while clearing buildings. The SBU emphasized such actions would violate the Geneva Convention 4, Article 28. On November 19th, the Kyiv Independent added allegations that Russian soldiers were disguising themselves as civilians, discarding uniforms to blend in while still carrying rifles, another tactic prohibited under international humanitarian law. Together, these moves show the strain inside the city and complicate UAV identification rules in close-in urban fighting. Ultimately, Moscow's narrative that Pokrovsk is already taken conflicts with the numbers and the ground picture. Kill zones now cover miles of the city. The Madyar Birds prowl the south. Har stalks the ruins inside. Russia has not achieved encirclement. Its infiltrators are hunted. Its armor is destroyed. Its soldiers, even wounded, cannot be retrieved without risking more casualties. And despite the pressure, Ukraine retains supply routes, evacuation corridors, and defensive positions. A reality also reflected in the recap figures 1,500 HUR reported. Killed in and around the city over November, 8,000 sector-wide in October as a prior performance baseline. Winter is approaching, and Russia wants a symbolic victory. But Pokrovsk has turned into the opposite, an attritional fightscape deeply unfavorable to Russian advances, where movement itself exposes the moving, and where evacuation triggers new strikes. And while the battle continues, Ukraine has already introduced a parallel strategy elsewhere in late November, striking energy infrastructure in occupied Donetsk and plunging Russian troops into darkness. That story reveals another shift in Ukraine's evolving war doctrine. A subsequent report examines the Donetsk blackout operation in detail and traces how pressure on logistics compounds the attrition underway at Pokrovsk.